turns truth into lies. But I won't back down. I must stay on this road. I gotta know what I'm about. It goes up and turns back down. We're all looking for the moment when getting used to not knowing when all the pieces fall in line. It goes up and turns back down. Keep searching for signs in my dreams back then. I don't know how to stop, 'cause it brings back the feeling that I can't reach the top now. Even
Traffic, traffic, traffic. How do you get more website traffic? And what's working right now in 2021? That's what we're going to be talking about on today's show. Welcome, everybody, to the Market Your Message show. I'm your host, Jonathan Milligan, and author of the new book, Your Message Matters: How to Rise Above the Noise and Get Paid for What You Know. Hope you're having a terrific day. If this is your first time joining us, let me know. Just put new in the comments. We're currently broadcasting in 6 different locations online. And you might be hanging out on YouTube, over our YouTube channel or Facebook group or one of our Facebook pages. Wherever you're tuning in from, welcome. And also the regulars, let me know you're here. Just put your first name, where you're watching from. I'm so excited to be sharing this with you today. I'm going to be jumping into my iPad here in just a second. I'm going to be drawing out a few things for you. If traffic has been a mystery for you, and maybe you've built a website, maybe you have a web page, maybe you have something that you want eyeballs on, but you don't know how to get people to pay attention, this is for you today. So glad that you are with us. Let me go ahead and say hello to a few people here. And by the way, I asked a fun question today, and the question was, what's the highest gas prices you've seen lately? As we're recording this, there's currently, at least over on the East Coast, east of Texas, there is a gas shortage going on. Definitely some panic buying, and people are, and gas prices are going up. So it looks like Mike says around $2.89 a gallon. Gwen says $4.75. Holy cow, Gwen. That's crazy. We also got Phil here from Richmond, Virginia. Looking forward to today's topic. Laura's here from San Antonio. Glad that you are here, Laura. And so many more of you. If you're here, let us know you're here. I see the numbers are ticking up. We got more people tuning in and watching. Let me know you're here. Put your first name, where you're watching from today. Yeah, Gwen says, good thing I'm a hermit this year. Yeah, so we filled up yesterday. Actually drove back from Virginia, bringing our daughter home from college. So we were a little bit concerned on, are we going to like get E on empty, pull off somewhere, and not be able to go anywhere? But thankfully, we were able to get home. We definitely filled up. But I'm with you, Gwen. We're not planning to go anywhere, so hopefully we can ride this thing out for sure. Joey's here from New York. Joey, glad that you're with us. Gianna is here as well from Missouri. Welcome. Glad that you are here hanging out as well. So we're going to be talking about website traffic and what's working right now in 2021. This big mystery of how to get more people to pay attention to whatever you're working on. And in fact, here's what you're going to discover today if you hang out with us. First, why you should stop doing what everyone else is doing on social media and do this instead. We'll talk a little bit about that. We're also going to talk about why you should learn SEO still for blogging and YouTube. You know, SEO, if you don't know what that is, we'll explain it. But a lot of people have abandoned SEO or said SEO is not worth my time, or I don't want to learn it. That's a big mistake. I think there's some definite advantages to learning it, and it doesn't have to be as technical as a lot of people make it. Also, my little known secret on getting traffic from podcasts that I'll be sharing with you today as well. All right, so we got some more people here. April says, working from home, so life is good. And this is April from Texas. Joey says, what live video platform are you using? So Joey, I'm using Ecamm Live. This is a Mac only software, but I absolutely love it. In fact, not too long ago, I did a whole live stream. If you look in the YouTube channel and go back a little bit, you will find a whole show we did on a live stream. And also, if you go to jmill.biz/livestreamkit, I know that's a lot. It's a wordful. Try to remember that. J is just the first letter of my first name. and then mill.biz/livestream kit, all one word. I get asked a lot about my equipment, and you'll see everything that I'm using there. So you can copy the same setup if you want. Awesome. Well, hey, before we get into today's topic today, I thought I'd tell you about something that I know many of you signed up to, but some of you may not have yet. And this is a cool new challenge that we are doing that's starting this afternoon, literally in 2 hours. If you're here watching with me live, this is happening. Day one is happening at 3 o'clock today. We have already got a ton of people in our private Facebook group. It's called Double Your Traffic 5-Day Challenge. And basically what I'll be doing is I'm going to be going way more in depth than I am today on the show on giving you one traffic strategy per day, an action step per day between now and Sunday to increase the traffic to whatever you have. This is completely free. We're not charging this. This is sponsored by a membership I run called Fast Track Lab. And this is a Double Your Traffic 5-Day Challenge. If you're interested and you say, hey, I'm up for that, then you want to go to jmill.biz/traffic. That's going to take you directly to a private Facebook group that you just request to join it. We'll approve you into the group. And literally in 2 hours, I'm going to be teaching day one of the 5-day Double Your Traffic Challenge. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty of how to do all this stuff. Awesome. All right. Phil says, love the shirt. Yeah, Phil. And actually, I'll be showcasing some new shirts very soon. We actually have created some new shirts. Like we actually had shirts made with some of our favorite sayings. And I'll be showcasing some of those soon. You might have seen a little bit of a preview if you joined and I think you did, Phil, our 5-day challenge. I was wearing some. All right. Well, hey, gang, I'm ready to get started. I got my iPad ready. I've got my Apple Pen ready to dive into this topic today and, see how we can help you better understand this whole mystery of traffic. So if you're new to the show, this is going to be a live recording that we're going to make into a podcast, YouTube video, and a blog post. But you're here joining me live, and then stick around after I'm done with this teaching part because I'm going to stick around and answer your questions. Sometimes we give stuff away and we have a lot of fun. So stick around. So here we go. So how do you get website traffic in 2021? What's working right now? What is not working any longer that you need to stop doing? That's what we're going to be talking about in today's show. I'm going to teach you 3 of my favorite ways to drive traffic to your website in 2021. Let's get started. Hey, messengers, welcome to the Market Your Message Show. I'm your host, Jonathan Milligan, and author of the book, Your Message Matters, How to Rise Above the Noise and Get Paid for What You Know. And today I'm actually going to dive in and teach you some from chapter 15 in the book, all about connecting to your ideal audience. What are the best ways to connect with your audience, and how do you get eyeballs on your thing, whether it's a website, a podcast, a YouTube channel, whatever it is that you're trying to gain traffic towards? What's working and what should you do? Now, I've looked it up, and you could do this Google search sometime, put ways to get traffic to a website, and you'll find articles out there like 101 ways to get traffic, 82 ways, 90 ways. And honestly, it can be completely overwhelming because you see all of those things and you think, I got to do all this. I got to learn all these things. The truth is, you can actually narrow down all those different methods into 3 ways. There's really only 3 ways to drive website traffic to anything. And once you understand the pros and the cons of each, you have a better understanding of how this works. then it makes it easier when it comes to implementing the techniques because you'll know what does it take to work depending on the type of traffic source that it is, right? So here's what you're going to discover today. You're actually going to discover what you should stop doing. Basically, you need to stop doing what everybody else is doing, especially on social media, and do this thing instead. And I'll be getting into that. Why you should learn SEO for blogging and for YouTube specifically. It can also potentially work for podcasting. But I know for a lot of people, SEO is a big technical term that intimidates a lot of people. We're going to break it down today. And also, my little known secret on getting traffic from podcasts. In fact, I'm going to share with you something that's literally been working for me in the last 4 or 5 days to drive lots of sales in my business and much, much more. So we're going to dive into this today. And yeah, if you're over on listening on the podcast, you might want to jump over in the YouTube channel because I'm going to be drawing out on my iPad. But each episode I'm going to describe as thoroughly as I can. If you're listening, maybe you're in the car, maybe you're on a jog, maybe you're cleaning the house, no worries. You can always go jump at the YouTube channel and see what I'm drawing out. But you can go over there, just look up my name, Jonathan Milligan, and you will find the video that goes along with this episode. But also, maybe you're just like, you don't know where to start. You're just like, I don't even know what business to start. I keep hearing about people writing books and getting paid to coach and doing YouTube channels and making money with podcasts. But Jonathan, I don't know where to start. We've put together an all comprehensive guide. It's 9-page PDF called the Discover Your Message Blueprint. And this will help you discover your purpose, your people, and your passion. You'll have your message dialed in. And it's completely free. Just go to marketyourmessage.com/discover. Okay, let's jump into today's topic. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to teach the 3 types of traffic, and we're going to do like pros and cons of each. So you'll really understand how all of this works together. So I'm going to jump into my iPad so you can watch me kind of write out some of these. And I'm going to give you an illustration of each that I've been teaching and using. In fact, I use this illustration in my book in chapter 15. So first things first, the first way that you're going to drive traffic, one of my favorite methods, it still works today. Number 1 is what I call free traffic. Now, you might be like, duh, Jonathan, I already know this. Like, tell me something new. I want free traffic, but I have no idea how to get free traffic. Well, in the book, I go into more in depth, but there's 3 primary ways that I use free traffic to drive people to my website over and over again, all day long, every week for free. And those are search, social, and subscriber. Now, as I'm recording this, and I know some of you that are here live watching this, because I actually do live recordings of every episode of your or the Market Your Message show. And one of the things that I do to drive traffic to anything I've got is subscriber traffic. Now, that's the first type. And I'll talk about, you might be saying, yeah, but I don't have a list. Well, an email list is subscriber traffic. This is free traffic that you control, that you can drive people toward it. And I'll talk about the pros and cons in just a second. Then there's social traffic. Now, this is traffic that you drive from, any social media outlets that are out there, whether that's a LinkedIn or Pinterest or Facebook. But here's the problem. The reason most people get no traction today is because all they're doing on their social media is posting their stuff. Like you're just posting over and over again your business stuff. But here is what's working right now. What's working right now is for you as a content producer to share other parts of your life. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to like share everything, but think about it. Why do people go to social media? Because they want to hear about the latest blog post or podcast? Not necessarily. What people go to social media is to learn about people, to see what people are up to. It's a social platform. And so one thing that's working right now is for you to pick a couple categories of your life, hobbies, interest outside of your business, and just post things that you're doing day to day. And what happens is you will start to become what's known as an attractive character, because people ultimately are going to follow you not just because you are good at your business thing. They're going to follow you because they like you as a person. They're going to buy you before they buy their products. And that's why you need to be willing to open up yourself a little bit and become more of an attractive character. Awesome. Also, let's talk about the other one, and that is search. Now, search is the two dominant players are Google for blog posts and potentially YouTube videos. And then second of all, it's YouTube itself. So Google is still the number one search engine that people are using. The number two search engine is YouTube. So understanding some SEO is important as well. So let's dive into some of these pros and cons. And by the way, you're probably wondering, Jonathan, what is this like old-fashioned water pump doing here? Well, I like to use free traffic as an illustration. And I used to, when I went to my grandfather's property, he had a barn, and this was in Indiana, and he had an old-fashioned water pump. And literally with this old-fashioned water pump, I remember as a boy walking up to it, and I would push the handle up and down. And I don't know if you've ever seen one of those where it kind of, sucks the water up from the well in the ground. It's manual, and you have to pump the water pump handle manually to get the water to come up. And I remember I would pump that handle and nothing would happen. And my grandfather would be like, no, you got to keep doing it. You got to keep doing it. Keep doing it. And I remember my little arm was just worn out from pumping this handle, thinking it doesn't work. This thing's broken. And all of a sudden, that cool, refreshing water came out of that water pump. And then he told me, ease up on the handle, and now you can pump slowly because the water pressure had built up in that. That, my friend, is exactly what free traffic is. Most people don't have free traffic, I believe, because they just give up too soon. It's hard. And so let's go back into our iPad here, and let's talk about some of the pros and cons of this free traffic. First of all, one of the pros is it is steady. Once you have it flowing, it happens over and over again. Now, I got my start blogging. That's how I started way back in 2009. And literally, I have had traffic that still comes every week from blog posts I wrote over 10 years ago. That is the power in blogging over time and staying with it. Because as you create these articles, they get ranked in Google. And if they're evergreen content, meaning they're not time bound, people will still get value from them and people will still find them. And we still see people finding my brand from blog posts that I wrote over 10 years ago. So it's steady. It's also recurring. Another pro, obviously free. You don't have to pay for this kind of traffic. You pay in time, but once it starts, you don't pay anymore for it. I rank right up there with some people who are paying advertisings on Google for the same keyword that I'm just right under them that I get for free every single day. So it can be free. And it works for any niche. It doesn't matter what your topic is. This free traffic can work for you. Now, what are some cons? Well, some cons are, like I've already mentioned, it takes time. So this is something that you have to just dedicate to. And once you know exactly what you need to do, it's going to take some time, especially for a new site. Google kind of watches a new site, doesn't exactly like open it up for people to rank yet. There's a known thing called the Google sandbox that your new website or your new blog lives in for a little while before Google starts to like release it and allow your stuff to begin ranking in Google. You have to learn SEO. Now, if you don't know what SEO is, it's an acronym, stands for Search Engine Optimization. And truly, it can be overwhelming. It can get very technical. But the truth is, if you just focus on the top 20% of what's most important with SEO, it'll take care of 80% of your results. I found that to be true. And then, another downside, obviously, is you have to build a list first. Not necessarily for blogging or for YouTube, but if you're going to get that subscriber traffic, like I was talking about, like every time I do a live stream show, I send an email out to those who have requested notification of my live show. And that's how some of you are watching this live right now here with me, because I sent out an email. That's traffic that I control. So that's the first source, is free traffic. Well, what's source number 2? All right, so source number 2 is paid traffic. Now, there's a lot of applications of paid traffic these days. Some of that would be Facebook ads, YouTube video ads, Pinterest promoted pins, Twitter ads, LinkedIn ads. There's all kinds out there. And there are some pros and cons to it. Now, what is the illustration that I have for paid ads? It's this. A water faucet. Think about a water faucet either on the side of your house or in your kitchen. It's pretty simple, right? When you want water, what do? You turn it on. When you're done with water, what do? You turn it off. What do you not do with water in your home? Leave it running all the time. Why not? Because you're paying for that water, right? We don't just leave water running all the time. And that is what paid traffic is. So let's talk about some pros and cons with this concept of paid traffic like a water faucet. One pro is it's fast. You could right now turn on an ad literally the next hour from listening to this and have people coming to your website, your blog post right now, today. So you literally, if you need traffic, go to the traffic store and buy some traffic. And you can be very targeted as to what that traffic is. Another pro is you can turn this on or off. You can decide how much you want to spend. You can say, I only want to spend $10 a day. I've got some ads that I've had running for a quiz that I have for the last 6 months. And some of those, I'm just running $10 a day on those ads. And we're getting anywhere between, I would say, 75 and 100 new email subscribers every week from each subset of those ads, because it's just something we're running for $10 a day. So pro is you can turn this on or off. And another pro is you can get leads and sales today. So literally, Facebook ads allows us to put our message right in front of our ideal customer. And you could pick up some subscribers today. I probably, right now, as I'm recording this, people are getting on my list from Facebook ads I'm running because I have them up and running. Now, just because I shared those pros of fast, you can turn it on or off, you can control the budget, you can get leads and sales today, doesn't mean that there's not a downside. There are some cons to this. Here's a con that a lot of people talk about is, Jonathan, it's just expensive. Like, I just don't have money for that. Now, you need to shift a little bit of your mindset towards this is not a cost, but an investment, especially if you are getting leads. I see it as these are new leads coming into my world that in the future may buy something for me. They may buy something now, but they may not. So it's an investment opportunity. But it's still, for a lot of people, it does cost money to run ads. Another one is you probably are going to need to learn what's known as copywriting. I'm just going to write copy for short. But copywriting is the art of persuasive writing. So you've got to learn to how do you create an ad that stops the scroll and gets somebody interested in your ad, right? You may have to hire an agency. If you don't know how to actually run a Facebook ad or get into the Facebook ads manager and set something up, you may have to hire an agency on top of the ads that you spend to get everything up and running. Or you have to just learn the ad platform, right? You have to actually like roll up your sleeves, get in there and learn that ad platform so that you know actually how to set up an ad to make sure you're setting up the right kind of ad. So you can see here there's pros and cons, but paid traffic is something that you can absolutely do in your business and start getting traffic today to the things that you're working on. All right, number 3, let's jump into this third type of free traffic. And the image or icon we're using here is a water cooler. Think of a water cooler with lots of cold drinks in it. It's the party, right? Whenever I think of a water cooler that's got, Coke and soda and water or whatever it's in there, that represents a party's going on. Somebody's grilling out, friends are over, and that is why number 3 is what I call partner traffic. Now, partner traffic is where you connect with somebody else who already has gathered together the audience you're looking for. Somebody else has already gathered together the people you are looking for. Now, in my book in chapter 15, I give a bunch of different illustrations of this, and there's a lot of applications here. But the one that I'm just going to focus on a little bit is, well, I'm going to show you an example in just a second. Let me get into some of the pros and cons. So basically, you are reaching out to somebody who already has an email list or already has a large social media following or large amount of listeners on their podcast or a big amount of subscribers to their YouTube channel. And you are looking for ways to partner with them. So here are some pros. Some pros to this strategy is, first of all, it can be very targeted traffic because you can know exactly the type of audience that this person attracts. So for example, a friend of mine, Chad Allen, he runs a full-time business now. He used to be in the book publishing business. He has a lot of aspiring writers who follow him. So when I partner with Chad, I know who his audience is. Like, I just need to bring something of value to people who are looking to write a book, right? Another pro is it's not expensive. So you do not have to bring a bunch of money to partner with somebody. It's typically done for free. In some situations, you are if you're going to offer something to sell to that audience, in exchange, you're going to give up some of the revenue back to them. So let's say you have a course that's $500, and let's use the example of Chad Allen. Let's say I have a course on how to build your email list to your first 1,000 subscribers. It's $500. And for every course that I sell to Chad's audience, he gets $250 of that. So it did cost me something, but it doesn't cost me money up front. So the truth is, it's not really that expensive. But the other thing I like is that it is immediate. In other words, this strategy kind of combines 1 and 2 a little bit. It's something that's free, but it's also can be immediate. And so it kind of bridges the gap between the two. But there are some cons here, and let's talk about these. What are some cons of this partner traffic? Well, one of the cons is you have to network. You have to be willing to reach out to people. Now, depending on your personality, that might be difficult. I'm an introvert, but what I've done is I've found ways that that make me feel more natural of reaching out to people so that I can connect with them in a more natural way. But you're going to have to be willing to like put yourself out there a little bit and reach out to people and see if you can connect with them and learn more about their business. And in that, you have to be willing to build relationships. Now, you don't have to have relationships like you got to become buddy buddy before they'll actually introduce you to their audience. Now, an example that I'm going to show you in just a second is getting on podcast. Like if you can go literally go buy a $40 microphone, start reaching out to people who have podcasts in your niche and build traffic that way. And I'm going to show you an example of one that that's worked for me here just in the last couple of days. And then finally, you have to be able to create value. Now, you might be like, well, why is that a con? Well, the con is you need to become somewhat known for something. Not that you have to be famous, but you have to know the value you can bring. So if you're going to be on a podcast, what is the angle? What is the thing that you talk about? What is the topic? Have you like dialed that in so that it makes it easier for someone to say, oh yeah, I'd love to have somebody come and talk about this topic to my audience. You need to know what that is. If you're going to do a webinar with a potential partner, you more than likely probably have to have a course, an online course that you've put together so you can sell something and share revenue with that potential partner. All right, so I'm going to give you a real practical example on number 3, something that has literally been working for me this year. As many of you know, I have recently published a book, and here's the hidden little secret that most book authors never do, is they write a book, they publish a book, and then they move on and they stop talking about it. Well, not this guy. I am dedicated over the next 2 to 5 years, at least until I write another book, to be talking about this book, Your Message Matters. One of the ways I'm doing that is I am actively getting out on podcasts to be interviewed about my book. Even though my book was published about 5 or 6 months ago, doesn't mean that it's no longer a new book. Books are new for a very long time. You can talk about your new book for over a year probably and still get on podcast. And so recently I reached out to Dan Miller, and Dan Miller has a popular podcast called 48 Days to the Work You Love. And so a lot of the people that follow him are looking for something entrepreneurial to start. They want to do something creative, something different. Well, I hopped on the podcast. He interviewed me, and it just went live last Thursday. So it's not even been a week. And I want to jump back to the iPad just to show you this. I grabbed a screenshot inside of my Gmail account. And I know this is super small if you're looking at it on the video, but here's what this means. Basically what this means is in the last 5 or 6 days, I have sold 45 plus books from that one podcast interview. So I gave 30 minutes of my time. I've sold 45 books. And by the way, inside of this is a funnel. And inside the funnel, we have upsells of some of our other courses. So we've not only sold just books, but we've sold $47 courses, $97 courses. And all of this right here has come in from one podcast interview. Now, think about this. I reached out. He said yes. He had me on his podcast. Well, actually, he interviewed me on Zoom for 30 minutes, and that was it. That's all I had to do. Then he gave it to his editors. They edited it. They uploaded it to their podcast hosting. He promoted it to his audience, right? I didn't do anything else other than show up and do the interview. And this is just from one podcast. This right here, this strategy is something that I'm actively using. I've got some more podcasts coming out very soon. Another one coming out on Entrepreneur on Fire with John Lee Dumas and others. And this is the strategy that I'm using to drive traffic, leads, and sales into my business using a book. So if you like that tip, let me know. I hope that you did. All right. So those are the 3 ways to drive traffic today. And you've talked about and learned the pros and cons of each. There's free traffic, there's paid traffic, and there's partner traffic. All traffic sources fall underneath those 3. If you want more information, you can go grab a copy of my book, Your Message Matters. And we go into way more in depth in chapter 15 on all of these strategies to help you get more traffic to your website. Also, if you still don't know where to start, don't forget about that guide. This is your guide to figure out what business you should start in the first place. It's called the Discover Your Message Blueprint. Just go to marketyourmessage.com/discover. And also, what episodes or what topics would you like for me to cover in future episodes? Let me know. And take a moment right now and hit like, share, subscribe, or even review our show so we know if this has been helpful to you. If so, we'll keep kind of creating more videos and podcasts on this topic. All right. Well, until then, never forget, your message matters. All right. So now I'm coming back live with all of you. This is the after party, hanging out with you, and would love to answer your questions. Maybe you have more detailed questions that you wish you could ask. Well, now's the time. I don't know about you, but I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen and watch a lot of YouTube videos with some of the people I like to follow. And it's like, man, I wish I could ask them a question. I know I could leave a comment under a YouTube video, but they may or may not reply. But here I am for just a couple minutes for those of you that are here live. And I would love to answer some questions just for a couple minutes. So just put a capital letter Q in front of your question. And I will answer your question. All right. Joey brings up a good point. He's talking about the algorithms. All the algorithms stop our stuff from being seen. Extremely frustrating. I'm with you on that, Joey. I know it can be frustrating at times, especially with Google. I know because back in the day when I first started, SEO was honestly like so much easier. It really was. But that doesn't mean that you can't still rank for things. I've shown my insiders, the people in my private mastermind, examples of things that I've just recently created that I was able to rank for very shortly, just in a matter of a couple of days, if you just understand kind of what's working right now. But I agree, you can't totally depend on it. You can't depend on any of these. The truth is, if I'm being totally honest, you need to have all 3 of these working in your business over time. And it's like I enjoy the search traffic. It's the majority of traffic that I still get. If you look at my Google Analytics, probably represents 70% of my traffic. But I'm not just dependent on that. I still run Facebook ads. I still reach out to partners. I'm still reaching out and getting on podcasts, like I mentioned, or reach out to people. So over time, you really want to be building and learning all of these into your business so you can just continue to bring more people into your world. But let's answer some more questions here. All right. Laura says, that's fantastic. Being a guest on podcasts is a great resource to talk about your book and business. Absolutely. In fact, I think every author, I used this strategy even back in 2015 when I did my self-published book. So this was my self-published book. I did the Kindle book, and then I had Amazon create this physical book. And then I did the audiobook. I used the same strategy. I was on Entrepreneur on Fire for this with John Lee Dumas back in, 2016. And this sold lots of copies of this book. And this was a book that I self-published. But now this is from a traditional publisher, but the same strategy works. You just reach out to people who have your audience, especially if they're already doing interviews. These people are looking for people to interview. Some of these podcasts are trying to ask people to be interviewed. In other words, they don't have a backfill, they don't have a queue. And so it can be incredibly powerful. All right. Gianna says, what's the best way to learn SEO? Well, I'll tell you right now, this would be what I would recommend is if you didn't hear my announcement earlier, we're doing a free challenge that's starting this afternoon. And now if you can't join us live, all the replays will be in the Facebook group. So literally you can just walk through it and do it anytime you want. But for the next 5 days, starting this afternoon, I'm going to be actually going more in depth with the things I talked about today. And so I'm going to actually be telling you what I believe are the 20% that you need to focus on. So in other words, you don't need to learn everything about SEO. If you do the 20% most important parts of SEO, that will take care of the 80% of your results. And I'll be talking about what that is. I think that's coming up on day 3 that I'm actually going to be talking about SEO and giving you some examples. But it's completely free to join us. It's a private Facebook group. Just go to jmill.biz/traffic and it'll take you directly to the Facebook group. You can just hit to join. It's free. We will, somebody on my team should be giving you access so that you can join us today. But that's the best way to learn is just to jump into this free challenge because I'll be teaching that. All right. Let's see what other questions we got here. Joey, is it better to do this on our personal fan page or group on Facebook? So they're all used for different purposes. So let me tell you what I do. I use my personal one to network. I think it's a fantastic networking tool because if you can network, and have you ever seen the mutual friends thing? That could be incredibly powerful because if you connect with a few influencers in your niche, it only takes a couple of them to say yes to your Facebook friend request. Then getting others to say yes is so much easier. And it's also easy because you can start, you don't want to bug people, but you can actually do an instant message. And hey, I'd love to connect for 10 or 15 minutes. You and I are both connected to so-and-so or whatever. You just start the networking relationship. And so I have found the personal Facebook to work best for networking for the business. The Facebook fan page, that has worked best for doing a live stream show. Like some people right now are watching on Facebook and they're on the fan page. That might be you right now, Joey. So it might be at some point you liked my fan page and now you see me pop up in the video. And then the Facebook group, I like using that for more community. So that's where other people can comment, and that's where you can build community. Like doing a free 5-day challenge is great for a Facebook group, things like that. So they're all different tools, but that's what I like to use them for. Phil, how much do you think your books have created traffic for you? I don't know the answer to that, Phil. Here's what I do know. What I can tell you is when it comes to publishing a book or launching a book, you got to get clear on what's a win for you. Because there's so many wins. For some people, they want to hit one of the bestseller list, right? Like there's strategies right now that you can self-publish a book, price it for 99 cents, and hit the Wall Street bestseller list. And then you could put that as your tagline. But have you made any money from the book? Probably not. but you got some notoriety because you got a bunch of downloads because your book was priced very, very low. So when I went into this, I was like, my strategy is not going to be to try to get on a bestseller list. Because what I actually did to launch my book went against me getting on a bestseller list, if that makes sense. That's why you have to choose, because you can't have it all. You got to choose what you want. And so for me, what I wanted is I wanted to acquire new customers. So that's why, even though I went with a publishing company, a traditionally published company, to publish my book, I bought back copies from them I negotiated a bigger discount on my original book deal because I wanted to purchase a few thousand copies of my own book so that I could set up a free book funnel. And so some of you, that's how you got a copy of this book, is I offered it just for shipping. But then on the back end, it offered some additional courses that go more in depth from the book. And so what we've done is I get the email address and I get acquire a customer. So I'm not just acquiring an email, somebody that may never buy from me. Customers are so much more valuable. Even if it's a $7.95 purchase, that person has shown that they're willing to pull out their credit card and spend money on that topic. And those are so much more valuable. And so for me, Phil, my strategy was I wanted to acquire as many new customers as possible. And that's why, we've run ads to the book. That's why we've getting out on podcast. All of those sales that I showed you from the podcast that just went live, those are all people who didn't just buy a book in a bookstore that I may never hear from, but I actually have their email address. I can follow up with them, right? And so I know for a lot of people, they're like, Jonathan, the biggest dream in the world for me is to have my book in a bookstore. And yes, that is really, really cool. But people buying books on Amazon and people buying books at the bookstore, while they may make me a little bit of money, I don't have access to build a relationship to them because they're not on my email list. When people buy a book on Amazon, they may eventually come back to my website and give me an email address, but that's it. That's all I have. And so that's why for me, it's much more valuable as like, instead of me trying to get on a bestseller list, because that's kind of the hidden secret, is there's a lot of people who have been on a bestseller list that have made no money. They literally haven't made any money with their book. That's not the reason to launch a book, in my opinion. Now, if it happens, awesome. But I wanted to acquire customers. So I know I went off on a rant there a little bit, Phil, but this is something that now, having launched both a self-published book and a traditional book, I'm getting more and more clear on what the book does for the business and what you should make it do. What sales collateral do you use for soliciting podcast interviews? To use a cut sheet? Yeah, so what I do, and this is a great question, what I typically do is I will craft a good email, and I have a couple of follow-up emails to reach out to people. But here's the truth. The truth is, most of these podcasters don't want like an entire sheet of information to look through. What they want to know is, do you have a topic that's interesting to my audience? And would you help promote this once it went live? So like an easy way to do it is, after you get an interview on a podcast, go give them a review, because reviews are hard to come by. And go give a review and then promote it on whatever social outlets you have. That podcast can be a super, super helpful thing. But honestly, you just need to give them a good reason to be on it. And here's the other thing. Once you're on a podcast, you can leverage it. So, it's easier for me to say, I've been on Entrepreneur on Fire 3 times. And that makes someone think, okay, well, he would be a good guest because he's obviously been on John Lee Dumas's podcast, which is a pretty popular podcast out there in my niche anyway. Gwen, do you have a set media package for getting into podcast? Who do you contact to get on them? I'm going to be talking a little about this, Gwen, on our 5-day challenge. But also, I know you're an insider now. We're actually going to be doing a boot camp this year on me teaching my strategy. So I have a spreadsheet I've created. I have some email templates that I've created. And the spreadsheet, basically what I do is I find 15 podcasts that I believe are worth pursuing each month. And then we have a spreadsheet and some templates that help us to get on those podcasts. And what we found is majority of those, I'd say somewhere between 9 to 10 of those or more, have said yes to us being on their podcast. So I'll be teaching that a little bit more for insiders because we're going to be doing a whole boot camp on it. So that'll be coming up. Gianna says, I'm signed up for it. Looking forward to it. Awesome. I think you're referring to the 5-day challenge. Floyd, do you think your method would be beneficial for recruiters trying to locate potential candidates in today's market? Yes, Floyd, and here's how you could do it. So I used to be, if you know much about me, and I think you're talking about employment recruiting, or I don't know exactly what you're talking about, but here's how you could use this strategy if you're trying to recruit or network. Start a podcast, start an interview podcast. Some of the ways that I have been able to network with some people I've been wanting to is I actually reached out to them about interviewing them on my podcast. And then I said, hey, would you be open to an interview swap where I interview you, you interview me, we block out an hour and boom. And like, yeah, sure. Because not only they're interviewing me for an episode for their podcast, but they're getting on my podcast as well. But back to what you're saying, what some people have used podcasts for is just a way to connect with the audience that they want to connect with, because you literally just extend them to be interviewed on your thing. So it absolutely can work. Awesome. All right, what's some takeaways? I've got an hour to prepare before I go live into our 5-day challenge. So we need to wrap this up. What is a takeaway? Put a capital letter T in front of your takeaway. We want to consolidate all of this learning into a single takeaway so that you don't just come and listen, but you actually implement. So what's a takeaway from today? Is a takeaway, I'm going to set up a way to get on podcast interviews, or I'm going to go buy a podcast mic so that I could be prepared to go be a guest. By the way, you don't have to have a podcast show to be a guest on podcast. That's why I said a microphone and you're in business. A microphone and a passion, a topic you're passionate about talking about. But let me know, takeaways, put it in there. Maybe it was about some of the free traffic. Maybe it was some of the paid traffic we talked about today. Phil says, I learned how powerful a book can be beyond just the sales. Yeah, I learned this from Dan Miller, whose podcast I was just on. It's funny because we were talking offline from the interview, and he was asking me about my book. And he's been a New York Times bestseller in the past, and he's written a couple books. And he goes, yeah, Jonathan. He goes, I was telling my strategy, how I'm really focused on acquiring customers, not really concerned about the bestseller list, just trying to get customers. And he goes, Jonathan, that's so smart. He goes, because people are shocked when I tell them like how little money I've made on the actual book when it comes to being a New York Times bestselling author. Like, it's nothing compared to the potential profit from your other courses. I mean, if you've got a course that's $1,000 or a coaching program that's $5,000, you can dwarf. Think about if you have a coaching program that's $5,000, how many books would you have to sell to equal that? Now, how much more effort do you have to put into selling 5,000 books than you have into selling one person $5,000? Right? Does that make sense? And so I'm not saying books aren't the way to go. And I'm not saying that you can't make a living from books. S.J. Scott, somebody who I've had a chance to get to know, has done that with Kindle. He's written Kindle books, written on habits. He prices almost all of them around $2.99, and he makes a couple $100,000 a year. But what's interesting is after doing that for a couple years, he knew he had to leverage, because you never know, is that going to dry up? And so he started a course teaching about his strategy of how to write Kindle books. Awesome. What other takeaways we got? Gwen, update my list of podcasts to pursue. See you in an hour. You bet. That's awesome. I needed to invest in time to prepare for podcast opportunities, and I need a traffic strategy. Awesome. And a book can stay new for a long time. Yeah, it absolutely can. I mean, you can talk about my latest book, my new book. I've been saying my new book, and I will continue to all year long, because the book has only been out 5 or 6 months. So a book has a long new shelf life. Okay. So capitalize on that. I love it. All right, gang. That is all that I see here for now. If I missed your question or your takeaway, I apologize. And also, if you are new and you're like, I love this, I enjoy this platform, this show, then make sure you hit subscribe if you're over on the YouTube channel. So go ahead and hit it right now before you forget, so you'll be notified of future episodes. And also, if you're on Facebook, make sure to hit like on the fan page, so you'll also be notified there. And I look forward to connecting with you on a future episode. Every Wednesday, 1 o'clock Eastern, we're here, ready to serve and help you market your message. Take care, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.